leaders who gave me opportunities before I felt 100% prepared, and that pushed me to grow faster than I would have otherwise.
Sometimes, it's just about that right person in your life and that right mentor, and they can really, I would say, guide you and kind of show you, kind of new possibilities that you probably didn't imagine for yourself. So
there is another skill I think it's very important is the human communication skills, how to work with people, how to organize people together to complete a task, for example.
Networking is so important. Communication. When people only see you through like we're talking today, we don't really see the full person. And so when you're jobless and looking for a job, that is scary because now you have to learn how to communicate and network again to people who aren't in the office. Hi, welcome to Women in Cyber Canada, Practical Advice and Inspirational Journeys. My name is Shelley Wark-Martyn, and I'm going to be your moderator for this panel. On this panel, I have 3 other individuals who are going to share their stories and their experience as well, how they navigated successfully, maybe where they ran into hurdles, and maybe where they ran into bumps and had to return to home base and start all over again. So I'm going to start with my introduction, and then I'm going to move over to Carol to get her to introduce herself and how she got started in her cyber career.
I started undergrad. When I was doing undergrad, actually I was doing accounting first, and then I switched to computer science. So when I doing graduate study, and then I took a course in cybersecurity, and I really liked it, and I got the good grades, and I feel encouraged. So I decided I'm going to choose cybersecurity as my research topic. And then after that, here we are. I'm professor in cybersecurity.
Great. Eloise.
Hi, I'm Eloise Taylor. I lead security operations and trust operations at Jobber. I didn't start my career directly in security. Like a lot of people, I found my way here through a mix of curiosity, opportunity, and a lot of learning along the way. Today, I am passionate about building strong security teams, mentoring others who are coming up in the field, and making sure that the next wave of security talent feels supported and seen.
Great. Farzia.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Farzia Khan. I'm the Senior Manager of Information Security at the TD Bank. I lead cyber resiliency initiatives that really focus on empowering our 90,000 colleagues and millions of customers to better understand and navigate cybersecurity in today's landscape. I earned my bachelor's degree in computer science from York University, where I took multiple cybersecurity courses, and I had a wonderful female professor that really opened my eyes to the world of cybersecurity. And then in my second year, I was selected as one of the top 30 female students to advise the then CEO of Bank of Montreal, and that introduced me to amazing leaders within the tech, and I kind of ended up leading major tech initiatives at the Bank of Montreal. And I think while working on these tech initiatives, one of the projects I was working on was like launching an innovation lab, and that meant working with a lot of emerging technologies. And whenever you work with emerging technologies, cybersecurity is always a major concern. So that was my first, I would say, kind of gateway into cybersecurity through emerging technologies. And so yeah, outside of work, I am also the founder of one of the largest all-women hackathon in Canada, and I recently also wrote a book on cyber safety. So yeah, I have lots of passions outside of work, but this is cyber is a great space to be in, and I'm very proud to be with other accomplished, I would say, female leaders on the panel today.
Great. Well, great, ladies. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. My name is Shelley Wark-Martyn. I'm with the SANS Institute, and I work with individuals and organizations across North America in workforce planning. My training and background is in nursing, social work. I was an elected official, minister of the Crown. also as a VP in developing companies and bringing them into Canada. And then one day, someone approached me and said, hey, we'd like you to come to work with SANS. I had no idea who SANS was. I looked at the website. I didn't understand the language. I said, I don't even speak that language. They said, no, we need you. And I said, what would I do? After several more conversations, they said, we need your communication skills and you're good with people skills. And so that's how I transferred and pivot into cybersecurity. I've been doing this now for the last 14 years. I absolutely love it. But it was that change in direction that allowed me to pivot into something that I didn't even know was there, but I took the chance and the opportunity to step into it. So ladies, you've all mentioned different times where you've pivoted or made a shift in your careers to do different things. What created that and how did you manage that pivot or change in direction? And we're going to start with Eloise.
Definitely. I feel a lot of those pivotal moments don't feel pivotal when you're living through them. One big shift for me is when I moved from just supporting security projects to actually leading parts of them. At first, I didn't feel ready, and honestly, I probably wasn't. But I had leaders who gave me opportunities before I felt 100% prepared. And that pushed me to grow faster than I would have otherwise. And then I guess another moment was when I realized I didn't just want to work in security. I wanted to lead security teams. And that changed kind of how I approached everything, not just solving technical problems, but it's building people up, creating better processes, and thinking how security fits into the bigger business picture. And both of those moments taught me how growth, it's a little bit cliche, growth usually happens just outside of your comfort zone. And that sometimes the best career moves start with saying yes before you feel completely ready.
Okay, great. Carol, can you share some of your experiences in shifting or changing direction in your career?
It's basically it's based on my interest. I think, as I said at the beginning, I was not cybersecurity. I was exploring anything. And in my master's degree, I was doing computer networks as my research topic. And then when I started my PhD degree, I started to explore what I wanted to do, what I'm interested in. And finally, when I took one course, and I was not sure at the beginning, but I was happy that I chose to take that cybersecurity course, and I feel like I loved it. And I decided to change my direction from computer networks to cybersecurity, and it turned out to be a great choice.
Okay, Farzia.
I'll say that I've had many pivotal moments in my career, but I would say one of the most defining or turning point was actually the founding of, LHACs, the first, all women's hackathon. And at that time, I actually had no idea how to organize an event, or do anything. But because, I really had this belief that, hey, we don't have any all women hackathons in Canada. At that time, we did have a few in the US, and I didn't obviously have the financial means to go or travel to the US to attend. I'm like, I'm just going to, maybe organize one without having any knowledge of how to do one. But I think that from ground up, I looked after the companies asking for sponsorship, got rejected multiple times. But that, I would say, hackathon, and although I personally at that time was already working as well, I really wanted to do this, for the community, because I thought there would be a lot of value that, girls would get out of this. Long story short, I would say now that ended up becoming a massively successful hackathon. Now it's 9th year and it's running. I ended up getting a bunch of job offers, I would say, after that hackathon, because I got featured on the local newspaper. And without naming any company names, I got offers from, I would say, the big accounting firms to the tech companies to the banks. And my goal was always to work at one of these tech giants. But ultimately, I think when time came for me to pick my, I would say, my career or my, the company, I decided to go and pick a leader instead of the company. And I would say that was probably the most defining moment, because a lot of times, people will come to me and ask, what kind of project should I work on, or which company should I, apply for? And I've noticed that the advice I gave is, it's so important to pick the right leader, because that right leader can open up so many doors for you. And I think at that time, I ended up, going and working at a financial institution, and that leader believed in me so much that, before I even graduated, I was reporting directly to a VP, and, she's the one who kind of gave me opportunities to lead some major projects and initiatives, despite not having the right experience. And, ultimately, brought me to, TD and leading a cybersecurity team as well. So sometimes, it's just about that right person in your life and that right mentor, and they can really, I would say, guide you and kind of show you, kind of new possibilities that you probably didn't imagine for yourself. So, yes.
Great. Thanks for sharing all that. So all of you ladies have had wonderful experiences, and we have a question in the chat that says, when you're growing your career and you're learning, is there a step-by-step guide on how you learn and grow in your career? Especially as a female, I think it's different. I know when I started in cybersecurity, when I went to events, everybody looked the same. I knew, and today there's still a majority are male people attending cybersecurity events. I tend to also visually show up, so that I very seldom show up in a dark color. I usually show up in a bright color so that they visually know that I am different. And it's interesting the response that you get. But I think the other thing for individuals growing a career in cyber is to really network, be part of something. You not only have to sign up for different training courses, there's lots of different courses that you can take. I'm always doing some kind of a course or training or learning. There's webcasts, there's blogs, there's, hackathons, places where you can go and participate. So there's like a lot of informal things that you can be doing, and then there's formal training. And I think just talking to a lot of people as well helps, because, I've mentored many people, and what they thought they wanted to do when we started is not what they ended up doing when we were done. And they were happy with that, because they didn't know where they were going, what that really looked like. So sharing that experience. So maybe Eloise, I can get you to share, because you had mentioned you had different trainings that you did, and there was a step-by-step approach to getting to where you are. Can you share a bit about what that learning was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was first starting out and exploring security as an option, like, I didn't have the budget for those big certifications right away. All of us know how much those big certs cost. I did a lot of low-cost courses, $15 Udemy classes and things like that. And honestly, it was a really viable way to build knowledge and momentum early on. You don't, everything has taught me that you don't need to spend thousands of dollars up front to prove that you're serious about cybersecurity. It's about showing initiative, like being willing to learn, get hands-on, and to start building that foundation piece by piece. Now that I'm in the position where I hire for security roles, I can tell you, like, when I see candidates who've taken the initiative to do those self-paced courses, build their skills independently, and stay curious, like, it absolutely matters. It shows interest, drive, and a real willingness to grow. And that's often what I'm looking for, even more than just a certification on paper. Certs like Security Plus and things can definitely help when the time is right. But just starting small, staying consistent, and showing you're hungry to learn is just as valuable when you're trying to break into the field.
Great. Yeah, that's very true. And I talk to a lot of people who are hiring and ask them, what do you look for and how do you hire? And they said, where people show up, who's referring them, and personal introductions by far is how they hire most of the people. So being engaged in that community, whatever it looks like, is really, really key. In your roles as leaders in cybersecurity, has the sense of imposter syndrome ever hit you? And how did you navigate that? So I'm going to let you put your hand up to answer this one. So who wants to answer it? Carol, I did see you shaking your head. So do you want to give it a stab, or?
Okay. Yeah, I actually for example, my job is associate professor. So my responsibility is to teach other people about the knowledge I know. But sometimes when the student asks questions, I don't know how to answer. That's a very embarrassing moment sometimes. It is sometimes I feel like maybe I need to learn more, like I keep up to date and the knowledge in the field, and I know I have to keep learning, and so that I could answer questions when the students came up to me. Okay, so it is the feeling is that no, you kind of am I that good? No, I know that position. Feel like I supposed to be know a lot of stuff, but I know my limits. I try my best. Do my best to learn new stuff, and I'm confident with the things I know. But if I don't know, I understand my limits, and I try to learn. Keep up with current knowledge. But I love what I'm doing. I think the passion is most important to keep my, keep my energy, be energetic in the field and keep myself upgraded all the time.
Great.
And
Farzia?
yes, I think I'll add on to, I think what Carol said, that I realized that the higher you climb, the louder that voice can get, that, feeling like an imposter syndrome. And I've learned that, it mostly shows up when you're doing something brave and unfamiliar, which means you're growing. And now I tell myself, if I'm not getting those feelings or butterflies, in my stomach about, hey, that feeling of being an imposter syndrome, it means I'm in my comfort zone. So anyone feeling that, imposter syndrome, I feel like it's a good thing, right? And number two, I always tell, kind of people that imposter syndrome, like think about the last time you ever felt proud of yourself, right? It was never in a moment of comfort. It was always like when you were doing something, out of your comfort zone. And I think that's something, important that I want people to know, that, you have to pause and look at the impact you're making, and not necessarily, it's not just about the titles or the awards, but the lives you have touched, and I think that oftentimes, if you're not going to be advocating for yourself, no one else is. And so what I do whenever imposter syndrome shows up is that I actually have a diary or a book, which I kind of call it my bragging rights book. I kind of keep a list of all my accomplishments. So anytime, I start doubting myself, I'm going to go back to that diary and start looking at my accomplishments. I'm like, no, Farzia, you've been able to do X, Y, Z. You are somebody who's capable. And so I advise everybody, keep that, kind of a diary or a book, whatever it is, notes of all your accomplishments, and keep track of it, so that anytime those feelings show up, you can go back and take a look at your own track record.
Great. Yeah, great advice there. Yeah. Being that self-reflective person and being aware of how you're feeling and what you're feeling, and where you want to go with those feelings. Eloise, have you ever had any sense of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you care about doing good work, imposter syndrome is almost inevitable at some point. I was like really nodding my head at what you were sharing, Farzia, because yeah, it shows up when you get into those bigger roles, and I felt that. What helped for me, I loved your idea of the brag book. We do something similar on our team. We do a brag doc where you document the cool things that you've done. And what helped for me personally was just trying to separate feeling from fact. Just because you feel uncertain, that doesn't mean you don't belong there. So focusing on the work itself. Am I listening? Am I learning? Am I adding value? Instead of whether I deserve to be at the table. And honestly, talking about it helps. You find out quickly by speaking to others that even the people you think have it all figured out actually feel the same way sometimes. And yeah, it's part of growing. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I think imposter syndrome, I think it's healthy. I think it's what you do with it that matters, right? I think we all have, even sometimes where all of a sudden, like, you're a mom and it's like, oh, I didn't have any training for this, but I'm a mom. And this is a lot of responsibility. And when you're in cybersecurity or taking on leadership roles within your organization, everyone looks to you as a leader. A great leader is also someone that can problem solve and who doesn't have all the answers, but can figure out how to get the answers. So yeah, imposter syndrome is not bad. It's just part of life, and we have it all through our lives. So let's talk a little bit about technical, or what I call power skills in your line of work, and what you do and what you feel is important in today's world to maintain, either in technical or power skills. Eloise?
Yeah, I think One of the most, I just spoke about this in my previous panel on the technical stage, but I feel like one of the most underrated technical skills is honestly just knowing how systems fit together. You don't always need to be the deepest expert in one tool, but understanding how, applications, networks, and data flows connect can give you an edge in almost every security role. It helps you spot gaps, it helps you ask better questions and make smarter decisions faster. And that big picture thinking is often the difference between somebody who just finds technical issues and someone who sees the real risk behind them. So I guess to summarize that, not honing in on one tool, but bigger picture and how things connect.
Cool, good. Carol?
Yeah, in my field, for example, you can know a lot of stuff in cybersecurity, but there is another skill I think it's very important is the human communication skills, how to work with people, how to organize people together to complete a task, for example. And in my case, I'm very active in organizing conferences and workshops, events, etc. And I think like I trying to expose myself to more connect with more people and work together with other people. I think it actually enhanced my like my role as a leader in the cybersecurity field. And people say, okay, when I go to conference, they'll say, oh, Carol, they all know me, but I don't know why they know me. I think because I've been organizing conferences and being like be my in the position that people can see me, in the spotlight. And I think in that case, it's a very good skill. What I do is to talk to people more and be active in different events and trying to connect to people. I think in that way, actually, it helps me as well.
Okay. How about yourself, Farzia?
I think to echo what, I think both of my co-panelists said, I would say storytelling is very important because we often talk about, threat models and frameworks, but what moves people to act is understanding why something matters. Like, can you connect with your audience? Can you make a CFO care about a phishing risk? That's a rare skill. On the technical side, I think it's also very important to learn how attackers think. Understanding that human behavior and psychology is game changing in cybersecurity, because cyber is not just tech. Like Carol said, it's very human. The ability to influence, communicate risk clearly, and build trust, I think that's where the real magic is. And unlike other, I would say, fields within technology, cybersecurity is very unique because it truly is intersection of, I would say, that human psychology, human behavior, and the importance of, I would say, storytelling. And now, even we have so much data, and how do you tell that story using that data and make your audience care about it? I would say is probably like the biggest power skill you can have.
Yeah. You look at the technical skills, I know last week I think it was last week was RSA, SANS did launch a new workforce study. And the number one thing that organizations that are hiring people are looking for is the practical application of their skills. So what proof do you have other than that course that you took that you actually have those skills? And there is some organization and some testing out there that does happen with practical application of skills that you've learned. So it's not just the written test, it's hands-on keyboard testing. Very, very important. And the other power skill that is really important, and Carol touched on it, is communication. Due to my work that I do now, I know many people across North America who have lost their jobs. Unfortunately, since COVID, they have been working in either a Teams box or a Zoom box. And so when they lose their job, all of a sudden they realize that their communication to the outside world has been limited. So back to where we started in this conversation, where networking is so important, communication. When people only see you through like we're talking today, we don't really see the full person. And so when you're jobless and looking for a job, that is scary because now you have to learn how to communicate and network again to people who aren't in a box. And that is a big transition for many. So making sure you're that individual who's out there and identifying who you are, what you want, where you go, where you won't go, because there are some places and roles that we don't want. The last thing I want to hit on before we leave in the next 6 minutes is there are few women in senior leadership. Although I can say I work with mostly females when it comes to workforce development, training, and certification for organization. Those people tend to be female leaders. But overall, through organizations, most leadership is male leadership. Other than networking and being curious, how do we overcome this gender barrier? That is a big question. Who would like to tackle that?
I can jump in.
I can say
Sure.
something. Yeah?
Sure. Quickly, because we got 5 minutes.
I love that one of the viewers sent this question in. I think it's a good question. It's something I'm passionate about. I think one of the biggest things organizations can do is stop treating diversity as just a pipeline problem. It's not just about getting women into cybersecurity. It's about keeping them, growing them, and building environments where they can actually thrive and lead. Women, depends on which source you look at. Right now, I think it's about 24% of the cybersecurity workforce is women, give or take. Again, depends where you get your stats from. So it really is truly rare to see balanced teams. Yeah, I'm proud to say that my SecOps team today is all women, which is extremely rare in the field. But it wasn't about setting a quota or hiring to hit a number. We simply hired the best people for the job. And it shows what's possible when you build hiring processes that truly focus on skills, potential, and opportunity instead of unconscious biases or old assumptions. So I think at the end of the day, real support for women in cyber isn't just about recruitment campaigns. It's about who gets access to opportunities, who's invited into decision-making conversations, and who's actively developed to move forwards.
Thanks. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Carol or Farzia, do you want to take a couple seconds to respond to this?
Sure, I'm happy to go. I think just to, what I was saying, that also representation alone isn't enough. We really need sponsorship, access, and trust, right? And I think it's a collective responsibility. I think for myself, I always tell myself, how can I lift others as I rise? Giving that small opportunity, saying yes to that coffee chat, giving that direction. A lot of times, once you have been in the field for a while and you have these connections and mentors, you just assume that everyone knows what you know, and that doesn't always turn out to be the case. So I think, when you go up, I always say, send that elevator back down for others to come up along with you. So on a personal note, I would say on a much larger scale, like holding organizations accountable, right? What are they doing? Because equity isn't just a project, it's a mindset shift. It always, should be a topmost priority. Like, what are we doing to support, half of the population? And I would say that we have our own unique challenges, right? I would say the working moms or the immigrants, all of that stuff. So I feel like collectively, us as women, I would say we can do a better job. Our allies can do a better job as well. So it's important we hold them accountable and sometimes lead the way if others don't know how to lead that way. And then try our best from an organizational perspective. That start talking about okay, yeah,
Great. Yeah.
as well. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Carol, 30 seconds.
Okay, yeah, for my role as I'm a professor and I mentor a lot of students, and working with students, actually, I have a different style with maybe other male supervisors, and I try to be more have more care about the students and ask them, like, have conversations about a lot of things other than the like technical stuff, and trying to make sure they are comfortable in my team and they have their problems they can share with me, and I can help him help her to solve the problems. I think that's my style. I think it's probably is different from a lot of other male professors, but I think on the workout and trying to help my students to be successful down the road.
Great. Thanks for your response. I think at the end of the day, if you want to be in an elevated seat in a leadership role, it is up to you to ask the question, how do I get to sit in your seat? I have done that all my life. Most people are shocked when I ask it, but it's true. I want to know, how do I get in that seat? And I'm going to ask the person that's sitting in it today, how do I get in that seat? Most people have said, let me mentor you, let me help you to get there. I've not had anybody say, you can't sit in my seat. And so I think for each of us individually, whether we're wanting to get an executive leadership position, whether we're just wanting a different position in our organization, whether we want a raise, if you don't put it out there, you have 100% chance of not getting it. If you put it out there and you ask, you have a 50-50 chance of getting it. And if you continue to work towards it, you may find yourself in that seat. And so working towards it also helps you to realize whether or not you really, really want it, because some of those roles are pretty tough. And somebody asked me about a role one time and I said, I don't want it. I've had that role. I don't want it again. So anyway, I'd like to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy day. There's so many great panels today on the Canadian Women's Cyber Conference, and I'd like to thank siberX for sponsoring and putting this together for all of us. So take care. If you want something, you need to ask. Take care and have yourself a great rest of your day. Bye, ladies. Thank you.